Hello, greetings, greetings, greetings. We are going to begin now. I'm Peggy, the Vice President. I'm subbing in. There's a little less sunshine in the room because Dan White couldn't be here today. He is moving apartments, and his apartment is essentially like living in a library. There's so many books to move, so yeah, he's pooped. So hang on, I'm going to find my wonderful notes. All right. We're going to have a wonderful conversation with Rochelle Staub and Martin Turnball in a little bit. Before that, we'll have a reading by Elizabeth Crowans. But first, I want to just do a few announcements. I'm ringing a little. Back up. Okay, so we're fast approaching the deadline for our Sisters in Crime anthology. The deadline is May 31st, so we're hoping all of you have been busy working on a submission and get it to us before the 31st. If you need more information, please check the newsletter, which is on the website, and if Sisters in Crime, la.com. Coming up, we have a special signing opportunity for Sisters in Crime authors at the Jackalope Indie Artisans Fair at the end of this month in downtown Burbank, and that's going to be on Saturday and Sunday, May 30th and 31st. If you haven't registered as a writer to sign at the event, please go again to the newsletter and look it up for the ad promoting the Jackalope Artisans Fair and hit the register to sign button, and we're happy to have you join us at the booth. And that event is going to be from 11 to 6 downtown in Burbank. And let's see, our Speakers Bureau is going to be back in Agora on May 16th, the third Saturday of the month, 1 p.m., with our topic is Greed and Envy with authors Catherine Dodson and Georgia Jeffries at the Agora Hills Library. And then if you yourself have a signing or special appearance about one of your books, please be sure to inform the newsletter before the 21st of each month. Send it into Ransom Notes, and it can be included in the newsletter. And let's see, Sunday, June 14th is our next meeting here, and Dan White will be back, and he's put together a fabulous program called Giving Voices to Marginalized Characters. This is going to be an exciting first-time meeting with a group of authors who write characters with marginalized voices, and you can learn how to avoid cliches and tired tropes that distract readers from the story. And these authors will explore writing authentically about you, what you know and what you don't, and help you steer clear of using overused stereotypes. So check the website, and registration will start going, I believe, this afternoon. And then before I move on, we're going to have a reading from Elizabeth Crowans. Now, Elizabeth has worn many hats in the entertainment industry in New York and Los Angeles for over 25 years. Writing credits include short stories and articles in Black Belt, Blackgate, and Sherlock Holmes mystery magazines, stories in Hell's Heart, and the Bram Stoker Award-winning A New York State of Fright, and 3 alternate history/time travel novels published by Atomic Alchemist Productions. Crowans is an Agatha and Lefty nominee, a Killer Nashville Claymore finalist, a recipient of the Mystery Writers of America, New York, Leo B. Bernstein Scholarship, a New York Foundation of the Arts grant to produce a photo-illustrated anthology. I'm getting tired. A Glimmer Train honorable mention, and Eric Hoffer first prize, 2 grand prize, and 6 first prize Chanticleer Review Awards. So she's currently writing in the Hollywood mystery genre, and today she'll be reading from her award-winning book, Round Up the Usual Suspects. So please welcome the unusual suspects, my bad habit. Please welcome Elizabeth.
Sure, yep. Have this thing collapse. Oh, great, thank you. Yeah, I am short. My Golden Age of Hollywood Mystery series starts out with 2 young PIs that wind up in the first book is called Hounds of the Hollywood Baskervilles, and it's basically Sherlock Holmes meets the Thin Man. They tend to rescue animals, and Basil Rathbone always had at least 5 dogs, several cats, and canaries. Somebody took one of his dogs. So he is desperate. I mean, could you imagine this guy going into, it's 1940, he's got 2 successful Sherlock Holmes books out, and he goes into the LAPD, like, can you help me find my dog? They laugh at him. Right, Sherlock Holmes, go find your dog yourself, right? So he winds up meeting 2 young PIs at a vet's office. He's like giving away flyers with a reward, and they recognize him. They're former actors, and they take on his case. But it happens to be he's got a daily variety with him, and there's a full-page ad from MGM. Somebody stole an Asta, and they can't go into the production on the next Thin Man movie. So between my 2 young PIs and Basil Rathbone and Myrtle Loy and William Powell, anybody who's anybody in 1940s Hollywood gets involved in this caper. And there is a very sinister element as to who and why are the dogs, takes the dogs. So that's the first one, and it happens to be the second one, which I read here about a year ago. One of the dogs that was taken was one of Humphrey Bogart's dogs. So the male PI exchanges business cards, and next thing you know, during the filming of the Maltese Falcon, he finds a very strange souvenir on his, threatening souvenir on his front doorstep. So he ends up hiring my PIs, and there are very strange, bizarre threats to the cast of the Maltese Falcon. So Jack Warner's a little worried that his production's not going to get completed because of what's happening. And the second one, it happens to be that the second book ends on December 7th, 1941, which we all know what happened on that date. And Babs Norman and Guy Brandt, who are my 2 young PIs, are listening to the radio about the declaration of war, and it happens to be that Humphrey Bogart comes in, and they, the very next day, if I know Martin's going to know this one, but the very next day on December 8th, 1941, a script that was buried in the slush pile over at Warner Brothers called Everybody Comes to Rick's was discovered. And it was a stage play, and it eventually got made into Casablanca. So there's a murder that is found on the Warner Brothers soundstage. Michael Curtiz is directing, who is also the director of Casablanca, is directing Yankee Doodle Dandy. And Jack Warner's a little worried that since they're going into pre-production on Casablanca, that one of his stars might be next. So that's what the third book is about. And we will start with chapter 1. Nobody's allowed to die on one of my sets, hollered Jack L. Warner. Who's that jackass who wants to halt my production? Flanked by his personal assistant, Bill Schaefer, Jack dragged Halby Wallace, his head of production, over to the soundstage, filming Yankee Doodle Dandy, starring James Cagney. He swung open the door as soon as the red warning light turned off and stormed inside. Michael Curtiz, the film's director, dumped his megaphone and threw down the gauntlet. The parade band on stage accompanied his rage with a drum roll and cymbals. Warner nabbed Curtiz's discarded megaphone. Rally the troops, all of them. I have a studio-wide announcement. Curtiz, turning red, clamped his hands over his ears. The actors and the background extras, dressed in woolen military uniforms, stopped marching and sweltered under the hot lights. The live orchestra fell silent. Sir, maybe we should check out the dead body first, Schaefer suggested with hesitation. At Warner's command, an assistant rolled back a piece of movable scenery to reveal a prone figure, an unknown man, wearing bloodied street clothes but with a swastika carved on his neck. Are you sure he's dead? Warner asked. He looks like he's just sleeping on the job. Backing up a few steps, Wallace broke out into a cold sweat. Has anyone been able to identify him? The assistant director strained to keep self-control, but trembled. Everyone denies knowing him. Our director, however, insisted we ignore the victim and stay on schedule. Wallace, turning green, gulped down his rising bile, but regained his voice. That's unconscionable. We should secure the set. Everyone will have to swear to secrecy. And under no circumstances is the press to know about it. Schaefer clutched his stomach, and his knees became unsteady. He grabbed a chair to brace himself. Jack L. strutted the soundstage like Napoleon planning a counterattack and examined the casualty of war with a sense of unnerving calm. He wrinkled his nose and instructed his assistant, better call the Burbank PD. Won't be long under these burning lights for him to stink to high heaven. Sorry about this. The actors, who remained in the stance of military attention, were about to wilt. Offstage, on both sides, waited singers and female tap dancers, dressed in skimpy satin costumes as a tribute to Uncle Sam. "At ease," Warner shouted, accompanied by a round, relieved sighs. "You think you could direct my film picture?" Curtis shouted in his choppy version of Hungarian bastardized English. "I can and I will," Warner barked. "Don't forget, I sign your paychecks. Furthermore, I still can't understand why you summoned half the musicians' union to play instruments off camera when you could have used a recording. Money wasted." Curtis glared with fire in his eyes. "It's because they feature on camera at the beginning and the end of the scene." He cursed in his native Hungarian tongue and stormed off the set. Jimmy Cagney, the star of the show, followed. "You can find me in my dressing room." Undaunted by his director and lead actor's histrionics, Warner demanded to see the production notes. After a quick glance, he scraped his fingernails through his receding hairline. "Too much! I can't picture it. Summon your editor, set up a projector somewhere, anywhere, on the damn wall if he must. I must see the dailies and bring me that hot-headed Hungarian goulash Gulagmeister and his la-di-da lead actor." Wallace broke the point of his pencil by slamming it down on his notepad. "All these delays, I don't want to hear a word from you about going over budget. I'm the one who makes final decisions. Respect your commanding officer," Warner admonished his confused subordinate. Wallace gave him a weak salutation, only out of respect. "Aye, aye, sir." Warner gave one last look at the body. "Go ahead, call the police," he said to Schaefer, "and hire those 2 private detectives." Wallace scratched his head with a look as if a screwball comedian had thrown a cream pie at his face. "Who?" he asked. Warner clenched his jaw. "Babs Norman and Guy Brandt, those 2 young kids who solved the Blackbird killer case and saved the cast of the Maltese Falcon. That was a close call for everyone." The phone rang at B. Norman Investigations. Guy picked up and said that Jack Warner's assistant was on the line. Babs motioned for him to hand over the receiver. "The big boss desires your company," Schaefer's told him. "If he doesn't mind throwing in 2 mouth-watering prime-rib dinners at the smokehouse for us," Babs said, who hadn't eaten all day, "we'll consider that our consultation fee." The 2 PI partners headed downstairs to their building's garage, where they now had their own assigned adjacent parking spaces instead of playing roulette for empty spots on the street. Babs put the key into the ignition of her ailing Crosley, the clown car, the brunt of Guy's constant jokes with a paint job that resembled a Mochley patchwork. The moment she put her foot on the gas pedal, it made a bone-shaking screech of metal against metal and emitted exhaust that would have choked a triceratops. "We're taking mine," Guy said after he stopped wheezing. He rolled up his windows to keep out the foul scent. "Can't believe you've never had the sense to replace this fossil since it never ran well." They pulled out of the garage and he donned his sunglasses. Now you're stuck with it because our government stopped new automobile production, and only people in vital professions such as doctors and clergymen qualify to purchase the remaining inventories. Private eyes don't have priority? He shook his head. Not in your sweet life. Those assembly lines are being converted to produce tanks, aircraft, and weapons for the military. Mark my words. Next thing you know, they'll demand we ration fuel and rubber for our tires like they do in England. Read the papers if you don't believe me. Guy flashed his Warner Brothers pass to the gate security guard. Babs panicked as she searched through her purse. I think I left mine in my car. Try flirting, Guy whispered. She snorted in defiance. I will not. Much to her surprise, he sweet-talked his way into saying, she's with me, and pulled it into an empty parking slot. When they arrived at the Yankee Doodle soundstage, the crime scene investigation was well underway. The Burbank PD sectioned off the area where the deceased lay, but nearby, Curtiz insisted on conducting rehearsals, even if it was too noisy to roll sound. He ordered the gaffer and his electrical crew to prep the lights for the next set of shots. But they went berserk, thinking a light was shorting out every time the crime scene photographer's flashbulb went off. Curtiz insisted his captive cast and crew finish what they started. He'd work around the police, even if it meant yelling and screaming at the risk of losing his voice to make sure they kept quiet. Isn't Jimmy Cagney your star? Guy looked around for the missing actor. Curtiz made an unintelligible grunt and spat into his handkerchief. We shall work around his crybaby tantrums. He launched a new battle with Wallace. You complain that clocks ticking means money. Then why does Warner have to be such a stingy fat cat? Wallace bit his lip to keep from laughing at the director's deliberate jabs at the English language. Our detectives for hire are here. He pointed out Babs and Guy. Jack wants you to perform the entire number, Yankee Doodle Dandy, from start to finish. The director stood his ground. That's not how we shoot it. We fall behind schedule, then Jack gets more and more angry. Warner paced the floor, belly aching to himself and to any of the cops who would listen. What if Cagney had been the intended victim? Not that I'm glad this man is an unknown Joe Palooka, but you know where I'm coming from. The moment Babs saw the corpse, her stomach lurched. Guy took his handkerchief and covered his nose and mouth. Did you find any ID? Found a driver's license in his wallet, said one cop. He's got a German-sounding name, Gerhard Sauer. We okay, or you need to cut me off? Okay, that is from the first chapter. We got books in the back. Round up the unusual suspects.
Let's see, I'm just going to lean over here for this part. All right. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I just can't hop up yet. I'm not a hopper yet. Okay, thank you for that, Elizabeth. And now we want to welcome Martin Turnball, author of Hollywood's Garden of Allah and Sisters in Crime's LA's former president, Rochelle Staub. And if they would come join us, and they're going to be in conversation.
Hi, everybody.
Hi there.
Hi, I'm Rochelle. This is
I'm
Martin.
Martin.
Yay. Before we get started in our conversation about writing in books, move this over because I want to look at him. In fact, maybe I'll just take it like this. When we had the idea when actually I talked Dan and the gang into letting me interview Martin here today, I began to think how incredibly cool it is that Elizabeth writes about Hollywood in the 1940s, and I wrote a book about Hollywood in 1932. Martin has written 17 books about Hollywood in the 20s and 30s through the 50s, and we're doing it all at this at Radford Studio, this incredible studio that was on the brink of death and looks like it's coming out of it soon, so we should celebrate that. But I thought it was so cool that Nancy arranged for us to bring our meetings here in this incredibly creative atmosphere. So I wanted to just give you a little background of where we actually are in history at Radford Studio. Max Sennett is the man who founded this studio here. It wasn't the first studio founded in the Valley. Lemley picked up his Universal, started Universal in 1915, back there in North Hollywood. And then when Warner Brothers had success with The Jazz Singer and they got some money, they opened their studio in 1928, which was the same year that Max Sennett of Keystone, I'm old, so I forget words. I just drift out into nowhere. No, Max Sennett of Keystone Cops, especially famed, opened another part of his studio here on this lot, and he was here from 1927 to 1933. And
from memory, I think he opened this because he wanted to move into talkies and talking pictures.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, because from memory, I think his studios over in like Glendale Boulevard
and Edendale, right?
And Edendale had been all silent, and he was a forward-thinking guy. So I think he established these, knowing that talkies was coming, because they were on the verge. Jazz Singer wasn't quite there, but was about to break through, and so it was these studios, I think, that he had in mind. Like, let's get on this new technical development that could open up pictures in all sorts of ways.
And so I think maybe some of the Fatty Arbuckle films might have been done here, and W.C. Fields for sure had to be. Yeah. He was only here for a short time, and then...
Well, the Great Depression got him. The Great Depression bankrupted him, so that was the end of him.
Wow. And so in comes the guy who I forgot his name, who founded Republic Pictures.
Somebody Yates.
Thank you, yeah. And just
Herbert Yates.
Herbert Yates, to I guess, increase his funding, also merged Mascot Pictures and Monogram. Monogram, famous for Charlie Chaplin, of course, for me. Anyway, the real Republic Studios opened and started in 1935, and it ran through 1967. And then without going into all of the deep history of people, I thought it would be fun just to read to you some of the films and television shows that were done here over the years to this date. So you know where you're sitting. I mean, when we pulled in, I went, oh my God, Last Man Standing Street was not there a month ago. I think they just named Last Man Standing Street, and there's Mary Tyler Moore Street, and there's Gunsmoke Street. I mean, so from in the early years, from 1927 to 1933 was Sennett, and that was the Keystone Cops and the Three Musketeers. And then the Republic era, which ran through 67, was Hollywood Westerns. And Westerns went from radio right onto the silver screen, and with Gene Autry, the singing cowboy, with Roy Rogers, the singing cowboy, with William S. Hart, with John Wayne got his start here, 100 films, I think, and also Billy Corrigan. That was the Republic era, and it was so incredibly successful. It bled into television, as well some of us would remember, with the Autry Show and the Rogers Show on TV.
Well, they were so productive that they had this huge library. And so they had this huge resource that they could then sell to television, as all the studios did. But this particular, because they were B's, they weren't long pictures and they weren't terribly expensive, but they were very successful. So after, 30 or 40 years, they had this huge library that became very valuable once television needed to fill all those hours that television needed to fill. And that's when the studios sold their libraries. And it was a very lucrative deal that the owners of these studios did, because they just had so much product, I guess we'd call it now.
Yeah. In the 50s, when we moved into the 50s, and now television really was overtaking film production in its way. Here on this lot, we have Gunsmoke from 1955 to 75, Gilligan's Island from 64 to 67, and the real lagoon for Gilligan's Island has just been built over a bunch of years ago by the last parking lot on Radford Street. So if you look at that building there's a lagoon under it.
To be clear, I don't think the lagoon's actually still there.
I don't
think
know.
there's a body of water under the parking structure.
It's right.
I could be wrong.
It's right next to the LA River. So,
That's true.
I mean, who knows who's buried under there? From 65 to 70 is Get Smart.
Yeah.
From 70 to 77, the very popular Mary Tyler Moore Show. And then it slips into the next era here. And this is when it became CBS Studio Center in 1967. So that's when the production companies came in and started making television shows, like the Mary Tyler Moore production company, and
because television killed the B movie. It was that was their bread and butter here, was the B movies, just the fillers to fill in the program fillers. Well, that was the end of that. So they pivoted to what they could pivot to, which was television, which turned out to be just fine, because look at all the shows that were filmed here.
I know, incredible. So I gave you the classic TV era, the Gilligan's Island and Get Smart, and then came modern TV. And this is Carsey Werner was here. And you'll know who the producers of some of these shows were so well, because actually you were a tour guy.
I'm not here.
Oh, okay. So 89 to 98, Seinfeld. They built an entire street for Seinfeld here. 98 to 06, Will and Grace. 88 to 97, Roseanne. 2013 to 21, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and then Big Brother, which started in 2000, I think is still hanging around. You know, I actually live right across the river facing the studio, and when Big Brother is in their final weeks of I've never seen the show, but who does something, they have guards posted every 100 yards looking for drones that are looking for
clues.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Oh,
I go for walks sometimes, and there they are on their seats, and I'm like, hi, Big Brother. It's really great. So I mean, pretty much that's where we are today. That is where we're sitting in this great history.
That's quite a history
of movies. And you said something the other day when we were talking about, had the people back then known that we'd still be talking about them. And do you remember that?
Yeah, for the most part of Hollywood's history, they were making a movie that was going to be in the cinemas 2 weeks if it was good. And then they would go back into the vault, and that would be the end of it. And they never occurred to them, that we, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years later, that we would still be talking about these movies that were just the next movie they worked on. They never dreamed it would have a life, because the technology we now have was not even dreamed of. So I think it's a testament to the quality of work that they were putting out, that they could be making stuff that we would still find entertaining or interesting or want to study all these decades later. I think they would be very pleased to know that we remembered their work.
Yeah, and it's very much the history of the talkings in the Valley. So it's great. Yeah. So now it's time for us to talk. Martin and I have known each other for years.
On nodding terms.
But not, yeah. We go to the same gym. There's a few of our other gym, and we're there at the same morning. So we don't talk to each other. It's kind of like a...
Just nod hello, polite, we're polite.
No, it's just kind of like a, you're here and you're here. So it was kind of a surprise, and just pitch in, because I have my own point of view on this. But I'm a historian, and I write, and I like to write about the history of Los Angeles. I love it. So I'll do things.
As do I.
Yeah. So there's this tour. There's a tour called Esoteric that just does tours all over Los Angeles for whatever the reason.
But more so like off the beat tours. It's not like the big ones like Sunset Strip or whatever. They're more sort of off the beaten path kind of tours. So therefore more interesting.
I think so.
Yeah, me too.
So there's this one Saturday morning, I get my car and drive down to the meet for this tour. There's 100 people going on a tour of downtown LA basements.
that used to be speakeasies.
Yes.
There was a reason why we're going to the basement.
Yes. So we meet at the Grand Central Market, and I walk in, and just like we do in the gym, it's like, hey.
I know that face, but she's out of context. Wait, how do I know that face? Oh my God, it's that woman from the gym.
But do you remember what you said when I walked up to you?
What did I say? No,
You
what did I
said,
say?
how did I know you'd be here?
Oh, I did. Because I thought, this woman's got an interesting... This woman at the gym, I see at the gym, I bet she's got a story. I bet she's kind of interesting. I don't know what the story was going to be. So when you turned up at an esoteric tour of speakeasies from the 1920s, I went, that fits. I don't know what her brand is, but this feels right.
So I go...
And I was right.
And we don't know each other's name.
Not even. No,
Right.
no idea.
Okay, so I'm Rochelle, and yeah, I'm Martin, and I'm a writer. Oh, I'm a writer too. And as we're having our intro, get to know each other's speed, the guy, Richard Chave, who runs the tour, he's standing back there with the microphone going, before we get started, Martin Turnball, will you please come up here and say something to the crowd? And Martin leaves me, and I'm like, what the because I've read a couple of his books, and I certainly have stolen photos from his website because he's got this incredible collection of photographs from old Los Angeles.
All available to be stolen.
And that's how we met.
So then Richard announces my name. Like, he didn't warn me that he was going to ask me to come up and talk. So I'm walking to the front of the group thinking, okay, so I'm Martin Turnball, and this is what I do, and la, 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 la. And I walk back to, because Michelle and I were standing at the back of the group. We just happened to be standing at the back of the group. So I walk back to where she's like, I thought, is she having an attack here? Like, what's going on? So it's just a coincidence that we write about similar things, because I've just finished a novel set in 1939, and she just finished a novel set in 1932. So the odds that we were both writing about the same city at the same decade, and we go to the same gym, and here we are at this random tour. It was our cute meet, wasn't it? Yeah.
It was a cute meet, I have to say, and I also have to say that this man is the most incredibly generous writer I've ever met. He has. I made the decision to go from traditional publication to self-publishing, and his help and his guidance has been just.
I think you would have figured this out on your own, but I've done it 17 times now. So we can shortcut all the ridiculousness, and I'll just go there, do that, step there, and then you publish.
Yeah, but let's talk about the 17 times.